The bigger the better is a phrase you will not hear from a researcher at the SCP Foundation. Larger anomalies can be a nightmare to secure, contain, and protect, and if you're new around here, that's kind of the Foundation's whole thing. But how broad is the spectrum of anomalous size? What deadly things come in small packages? And what anomalous threats could lay waste to the world in a footstep? These are exactly the ideas we're exploring today with our big question: what's the biggest SCP? Alright, let's now set a few ground rules before we jump headlong into the action. No entirely anomalous planets or alternate dimensions. This may seem like we're excluding anomalies like SCP-2935-0 Death, the alternate dimension where death itself has overtaken everything, or SCP-4774, a theoretical anomalous gas giant that's 2 to 4 times the diameter of Earth. But it's a little unfair to some of the other hardworking big SCPs by skewing the results with whole universes or literal celestial bodies. We're also excluding shapeshifters and reality warpers who could theoretically be any size they like. If you have a problem with that, we kindly invite you to take it up with the director of our complaint department, SCP-106. He's horrifying. I highly suggest you don't do that. Now then, for those who haven't now been dragged into a pocket dimension to endure centuries of unspeakable horrors, we'll start with the pipsqueaks and work our way up to the "Oh Lord, he comin'" stage of anomalous size. Our hardworking researchers have concluded through rigorous study that one of the most itty-bitty SCPs is undeniably SCP-008, a terrifying prion with incredible infectivity rates that effectively turns its victims into Walking Dead-style zombies, with the only known cure being SCP-500. Prions are beyond tiny, at only around 253 amino acids in length. They can only be seen via an electron microscope, and they make viruses look beefy by comparison. That doesn't mean if you get infected, it won't seriously mess up your day, to put it extremely lightly. So, what's next? We've got something like SCP-165, also known as the Creeping Hungry Sands of Tuel. We know what you're thinking. Seriously, we have the technology for that? And we also know you're thinking, hey, that's a lot of sand. What do you mean that's only one step above a virus? That's because this Erastus sand is actually made up of tiny parasitic mites, only about 750 micrometers in length. But once again, don't let their tiny size fool you. They can knock you out and eat you to the bone in minutes. But hey, at least they'll leave bones. Unlike the nightmarish flying ant creatures coming out of SCP-743, the Chocolate Fountain. This fountain, which is perfect for weddings, corporate retreats, and birthday parties for your worst enemies, has the most delicious chocolate you've ever tasted. Problem is, if you ever ingest it, millions of these nightmarish ant-like monsters will swarm in soon after and devour you and everyone you love. Horrifying. The body horror earwigs of SCP-439 are in this same weight class, as monsters with the size and general appearance of pre-existing non-anomalous insects. Except you don't need to have a phobia of them for these little suckers to make your worst nightmares come true. But you know who loves bugs? Birds. Birds such as the common corncrake, like SCP-2337, also known as Dr. Spanko. Though Dr. Spanko prefers bugs of the gummy variety. He can also literally talk you to death with a voice so loud and booming it'll destroy your very cells if you're exposed to it for too long. It also sounds like me. But his body isn't too long, at a manageable 27 to 30 centimeters. He's a similar size to other fun little critters like SCP-131 the iPods, and less fun little critters like SCP-689 the Haunter in the Dark. The weight and height class above this is one that a huge number of SCPs fall into, roughly human or a little above or below. The Old Man, Cain, Abel, God, the Sculpture, the Plague Doctor, the Tickle Monster, the Swamp Woman, and Bigfoot. And just above that, we've got a number of the SCP heavy hitters: SCP-096, SCP-682, Ferdinand the Cannibal, Cthulhu, SCP-5031, Major Alexei Belatrov, and the list goes on. But honestly, these are all still small potatoes. We're playing with the big boys now. Literally. What follows are some of the biggest SCPs our in-house Foundation scientists could find. From "Dear God, that's huge!" to so big that your mind might boil in your head like an egg just trying to comprehend it. What are we waiting for? Let's make like Gaston and get large. First, we head to SCP-1730, the nightmarish interdimensional Site-13. No, we're not going to cop out and hit you with a building. We're talking more about one of its scariest occupants, the giant bloodthirsty monster known as Leech Boy. Once an anomalous child named Elijah, the abomination is now a 200-meter-long broodmother, with a hive mind controlling swarms of deadly anomalous leeches. Even in a building literally full of terrifying anomalous monsters, Leech Boy was able to dominate with his size and power. Until, of course, he ran into the next entry on the list, SCP-001 the Gate Guardian. This cosmic celestial flame warrior stands at 700 cubits tall, which equates to an incredible 320 meters, over half the height of the Empire State Building. If his hotter-than-the-sun greatsword doesn't get you, he can always just step on you, and believe us, there will be literally nothing left after he does so. It makes sense after all. You really don't want a pipsqueak guarding the gates to paradise. But what's a servant to the gods to an actual bona fide god? Let's take a look at another SCP-001 that proves to be terrifyingly big. Straight from the Ouroboros cycle, SCP-001 Apotheosis, also known as the Broken God. We don't have exact numbers on the size of this giant metal monstrosity, largely due to the fact that it kept getting bigger and bigger as it integrated more matter into its already massive body. The sheer scale of this utter behemoth is best expressed in what it was capable of doing, and what it took to eventually put it down. The monster caused considerable chaos across all of western Mexico, leading to the largest deployment of amnestics after the fact in SCP Foundation history. In order to eventually beat the thing, they needed to get a hand from a certain other anomaly, but we'll discuss that one a little more later in the video. If you thought a giant metal monstrosity nicknamed the World Eater by some is scary, then you'll be quaking in your boots at the mere thought of our next SCP, SCP-4006, Massachusetts. This incredibly anomalous state is afflicted by a probabilistic anomaly known as the Veil, which is meant to maintain a sense of normalcy, and tricks people into thinking that the state of Massachusetts has ever been occupied by humans. In fact, the location has been entirely devoid of human civilization since the dawn of time. We're all just victims of the anomaly that makes us think otherwise. Our next contestant isn't wider than the anomalous state of Massachusetts, but he's a hell of a lot taller, and way more dangerous. It is the apocalyptic monster trapped beyond SCP-2317, the Devourer of Worlds. This monster is likely destined to perform an XK-class end-of-the-world scenario against us, as it already has in other worlds. It's an utterly monstrous 200 kilometers tall. Think 400 Empire State Buildings stacked on top of each other and then some. It's a being that likely no weapon humanity or even the SCP Foundation has devised will be able to even slow down. If ever he breaks free, we can only hope that death will come quickly. But his size has nothing compared to some of the beasts that lurk below. Take the legendary SCP-3000, the godlike underwater being known to some as Anantashesha. This huge eel-like monster is the leading provider of amnestics for the SCP Foundation, as long as they can provide it with ample sacrifices in return. It's a being so big and so deep underwater that it's difficult to truly know the creature's length. Some estimates have put it around or even above an incredible 900 kilometers. That's over twice the length of a fellow anomaly, the state of Massachusetts. It is a perfect example of some of the terrifying things waiting underneath. So what if we told you that there was something even longer, even larger than the terrifying Anantashesha, lurking below us as you watch this very video? And furthermore, what if we told you that it was super adorable too? Meet SCP-2952, also known as the Infinite Corgi. This male Pembroke Welsh Corgi measures over 30,000 kilometers in length. That's a hell of a lot of good boy. Where could we possibly keep it all? Well, his head and front legs protrude adorably from the ground in Portland, Oregon, and his 30,000 kilometers of Corgi body place his rear end in a rural area of Japan's Karawa district. His body weaves under the Americas, Europe, and much of Asia, putting the length of Anantashesha to shame. There's a lot more to SCP-2952 than we can really get into here, but if you want a full video on the world's longest good boy, sound off about it in the comments. And now, we're down to the big three. The ones that could drive you mad even trying to comprehend their scale. Try to take it all in, if they can even fit into your field of vision. While this next anomaly isn't as long as the Infinite Corgi, its sheer bulk is terrifying on a whole different level. It's SCP-169, also known as the Leviathan. Thankfully, this incredible beast is lying dormant underneath an archipelago, but like the world's various scary supervolcanoes, the risk of the Leviathan someday rising and causing chaos across the globe with its mere movements is never out of the question. Just in terms of sheer raw largeness, SCP-169 is probably the biggest anomaly currently living on Earth. But that doesn't mean we're done just yet. For our next two shining examples of megalophobia-inducing monstrosity, we need to head a little further out into the cosmos. First, to the creature sucking the life out of the giant star that gives us all life, SCP-1682, also known as the solar parasite. This monster is described by personnel on the case as a kind of cosmic tapeworm that siphons energy out of stars like our sun. It's over 28,000 kilometers long, and there's a good chance that it means us great harm. Just goes to show, there are no good tapeworms, whether they're wreaking havoc on your intestines or your entire solar system. And now, the Big Daddy to end all Big Daddies. The biggest SCP that isn't a planet, dimension, or portion of space. SCP-2399, an unimaginably huge weapon of mass destruction known as a malfunctioning destroyer. This alien superweapon, sent to completely destroy the Earth, instead ended up getting stranded on Jupiter and causing a mark on the surface known as the Great Red Eye, which, by the way, is bigger than the entirety of planet Earth. It's currently being repaired, and if it ever completes its goal, it will likely continue its mission and wipe us all out. To give you an idea of just how much more powerful this mechanized alien nightmare is compared to pretty much everything else on this list, SCP-2399 was instrumental in defeating and eventually destroying SCP-001 Apotheosis, the Broken God. Seeing as it's currently 713 million miles away, it's difficult to tell exactly how big SCP-2399 is. But one thing is for sure, if ever you get close enough to find out, you're as good as dead. So there you have it, the biggest SCPs out there. Which was your favorite? Let us know down in the comments. Oh, and if you're new here, be sure to subscribe. It can make a big difference. That was a terrible joke, I'm very sorry. Now go check out SCP-2935, Oh Death, and more epic SCP stories you can't miss. And SCP-002, The Living Room, and most terrifying SCP rooms for more unforgettable anomalous compilations from SCP Explained.